Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm your host, Jim Goddard. Welcome back to the show, John.
Jim, I'm still hanging in here doing Discovery Watch, even though it's getting really tough to watch for discoveries.
John, what do all these suspended exploration programs mean for the Resource Juniors and Discovery Watch?
You know, the depressing thing this week, Jim, has been watching news release after news release about mines being shut down, exploration programs being suspended as country after country goes into lockdown mode. You know, South America, which is a very popular destination for exploration juniors, they are shutting down everything, and they're actually quite serious about it. Here where I live in the East Bay, everybody's still sort of going around their business, but there's no restaurants or anything like that open, but people are still moving around, just keeping their distance. But places like Ontario and Quebec, they have suspended exploration programs, and this, I think, is a real problem. We've got over 500,000 cases of coronavirus confirmed. Italy and the United States are on the threshold of passing China in terms of number of cases, and of course Italy already has more than double the number of deaths that China has reported. So it's really unclear how long it's going to take for this to play out, and they're pushing the idea that we need to have this lockdown be at least a couple of months, not a couple of weeks. And then the question becomes one of, well, what is the all clear signal for allowing everything to go back to normal? And so this uncertainty now is really clouding the Resource Juniors. Last week we talked about azimuth exploration. They were moving their drills onto the property. They in fact did get them onto the Elmer property by the weekend, but then came the notice all exploration activities suspended. Now azimuth can go back in a couple of months if we get an all clear signal and drill there in the summer, but other juniors did not have that luxury. One of the ones that we've covered off and on Discovery Watch is Opus One Resources, and originally we introduced it as a kind of area play canary for the Windfall Urban Township play that Osisko Mining got going several years ago. Osisko has managed to deliver over 6 million high-grade ounces for the Windfall project, but it spent a couple $100 million doing so, and the area play never really took off, and they had Opus One had its Fecteau project, and it's had a little bit of work done, but still, nobody really cares. But they did acquire another project in the Casa Berardi Trend area, east of the Vesa projects that they have, and this was called the Noyel project. They optioned it last year. It's actually unfinished business for Pierre O'Dowd, who is their chief geologist. He had worked on it a number of years ago for another junior, which got distracted by something in Africa or elsewhere and abandoned the program. So for him, this was unfinished business, which he helped the company acquire. And this company managed to raise $400,000 flow through at a nickel. That money has to be spent this year. They were on the threshold of raising another $480,000 a few weeks ago, had it almost closed, and then the market, the bottom fell out of the market completely, and this financing evaporated. But their project, it's an iron formation gold system that they have there. They planned a 10-hole drill program, and they got the drill rig on the property. They can only drill this during the winter because the main target area is in a swampy area. And they managed to get 2 holes testing the system down dip. And then the word came, you have to shut down. So they cannot go back on this project until January, February of next year. And if those 2 holes didn't deliver anything significant, then that company basically is going to have to spend its remainder of its $400,000 flow through on some other properties such as Fecteau. But what the company really should be able to do is spend this time trying to sell its story and raise money from a much larger audience of small investors. And I think this crisis right now, I'm not sure how soon everything will be back to normal. It could be a very long time. And these resource juniors, in the 1,200 or so that I follow, half of them have negative working capital. They're like in a hopeless situation. But the other half have some working capital, and they need to be able to replenish it. But I think there's going to be a freeze on financing by the traditional sources such as brokerage firms, because they have suffered such tremendous losses in all these other areas that giving money to some junior resource exploration program for a program that might resume later this year, that's not really going to happen. So I think now's the time that the industry needs to stand up, go back to the regulators and said, hey, this existing security holder exemption you introduced a few years ago, it's a good idea. It doesn't require an investor to pass a means test, like being worth $1 million or so. It doesn't really require you to pass an intelligence test, demonstrating sophistication. It restricts you to $15,000 per company per 12-month period. So, a non-millionaire can't blow his or her brains out, putting all in on some junior's project. But it opens up a large potential pool of small investors. I'm sure the Canadian pool of accredited investors probably is a lot smaller after the bloodbath from the last few weeks. These juniors need to be able to raise $5,000 from ordinary individuals, from tens, hundreds of thousands of individuals who are potentially interested in the junior resource sector. We're going to have a gold uptrend in the background. That will sort of make them pay attention. But for the little Opus One type companies, to get money into the treasury, to keep the overhead taken care of, and to do whatever preparation work is needed for when exploration is allowed, they need to be able to get money from many small investors. But this existing security holder requirement, it prevents it from happening. If they announce another attempt to raise $500,000 at a nickel, you have to already be an existing shareholder in order to participate. Well, if you're already an existing shareholder, why do you want to buy more? What these companies need to do is attract broader audiences and lots of small investors who are going to be there for the long haul, not just clip the warrant and flip the stock as soon as the 4-month period is over. So the simplest thing that the regulators could do right now is just eliminate the existing shareholder requirement from this exemption. All the paperwork is already in existence for it. All they need to do is remove this and allow these hundreds of juniors to start looking for investments from any number of individuals. Put out your private placement announcement, have your website up to date, your CEDAR filings all up to date. There is no reason an ordinary non-millionaire should have to already own shares in a company that's doing a financing in order to participate. Now is the time for the industry to stand up and say, do this, help us survive this, because if this drags on, 6 months or more, then we have basically a death knell for the resource junior ecosystem.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, did any of our Discovery Watch juniors manage to get their winter drill programs done?
Well, it's ironic. Yesterday, as I'm going through all these news releases about all these suspended programs, I said, gee, I wonder if Niobe Metals managed to get its program done. And I called up Claude Dufresne, ask me. He said, "Oh, you didn't see? We put out a news release this morning." I said, "Oh, no, is it one of those depressing ones about how you got started and had to be interrupted?" But no, he said, "We actually got the 7-hole program with 3,000 meters done. We will be able to use this once the assay labs process the assays. We'll be able to do an updated resource estimate. Later this year, we will have material for additional metallurgical studies, and a lot of this stuff doesn't require you going in the field and moving around with others. So we managed to get this program done during the winter before the word came down from the Quebec government or the Ontario government in this case, that exploration has to cease until the fear of widespread transmission of the coronavirus has passed. So this was an example of a junior that managed to get the work done that it needs to advance its story. I was quite pleased. It's one of my favorites in my current list for 2020. And niobium is a metal that's for the lightweighting sector for steel, primarily for steel, and most of it comes from the Araxá deposit in Brazil. And one of the things that a lot of people are starting to think about is that this coronavirus has the potential to collapse globalization and really mess up supply channels. It's not clear when this is all over if the world will go back to a globalized economy. We see China starting to assert itself vis-a-vis the United States. China seems to have beaten its pandemic, its epidemic. Its cases are stabilized. The American cases are still rising. We do not know when that will stop. So there's all kinds of geopolitical stuff now going on in the background, and having additional deposits of niobium elsewhere in the world that can go into production, that the CBMM company in Brazil is not going to attempt to crush because they already control 85% of the market. So lowering the price to make these lower grade deposits elsewhere in the world sub-economic hurts them more than gaining the monopoly as a result of that. But there's also the potential for physical disruption. And if all of a sudden the Araxá mine for some reason can't produce niobium, well, then you have all the steel makers in the world that require niobium to strengthen their steel. All of a sudden, they have a problem. So companies like Niobe Metals, it's good they managed to get their program done. They can do the work that they need to do this year to deliver a PEA and show what the costs of developing this is, and demonstrate that there's significant upside for this company, which has not bounced back from the news that it did manage to get its program going. But in my view, this is one of the better Discovery Watch juniors to watch during these crisis times.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after the break.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, is the coronavirus crisis potentially helpful for any of our Discovery Watch juniors?
Well, in general terms, the rush to deal with all of a sudden everybody suddenly being told just stop work, stop spending money, crushing the revenue side of the business equation, putting everybody on a track towards bankruptcy or financial difficulty. This $2 trillion stimulus bill in the United States, that's going to eventually have some sort of inflationary effect. And we are seeing, Goldman Sachs rang the bell. Yes, gold bull market is here. We're going to see more and more interest in gold. In Europe, they can't find any small bullion to buy there. They're running around just like they did in 2009, buying little wafers and coins and that, but it's all vanished. Nobody wants to sell it. But the gold itself is still sort of lagging because there are still massive liquidity problems amongst all these hedge funds that have been caught offside by these sharp drops in the market. The markets bounced back on the news of this stimulus bill. But we will have a gold price trending higher, go into the $2,000 plus range. That doesn't help any of our exploration juniors right now who aren't allowed to do anything. It does help the optionality ounce in the ground type plays. Market's been really reluctant to embrace them, and because it hasn't really believed that gold is in a long-term uptrend. Well, the measures being taken now clearly put gold into a long-term uptrend. And stocks like Midas Gold, which we talked about last week, they were down in sort of 33, 35 cents. They've bounced back over 50 cents. Even if the permitting work at the moment ends up being suspended because the bureaucrats have all been told to, go home and, try and do it from remote, people will see this and say, okay, it's going to take a year anyways for the permitting to be completed. But meanwhile, if gold is tracking higher, stocks like that is something I'm going to own. But your question, I take it, was really meant to any of our juniors benefit directly from this. And the one that does benefit directly is Verde Agritech, which has this Verdeci slate. It's a glauconite deposit that runs about 10% potassium in it, and it's in Brazil. It's billions of tons. And it's trying to persuade the Brazilian farm community to adopt this as an alternative to ordinary potassium chloride potash that gets imported from Canada, Belarus, all these other parts. Brazil has a 90% import dependency on that. And while there's never any shortage of potash in the bay there waiting to be unloaded and shipped to the farmers for application on their fields, all of a sudden, when you have these massive lockdowns everywhere, you begin to wonder, well, will the potash continue to be mined in Saskatchewan? Will the railways continue to transport it? Will the ports load it onto the freighters? If we're so dependent, 90% dependent on this, this could be a problem down the road. Now, maybe this pandemic will sort of come and go, but who knows if there's going to be another one, a worse one down the road that disrupts global trade. So right now, the bureaucrats in Brazil are looking at what Verde Agritech is doing. They're busy selling as much as they can. They can produce, they've got a permit to produce a certain amount right now from one quarry. They're looking for a much larger permit for 300,000 tons of this material. So I suspect that a company like this, all of a sudden the nation's saying agriculture is an essential service. Even if people are locked down and not allowed to go to restaurants, they still need to eat food. We still have to grow crops. And you're never going to not plant your fields and tend them and harvest them, your crops, and they all need fertilizer. So this company, it had its first year when it started, it had some technical commissioning difficulties that prevented it from fulfilling all its orders. Last year they bobbled their marketing and didn't have as many orders as they had capacity to fulfill. And from these 2 years of learning curve, they are now this year completely set up to sell out their capacity. And the farmers all of a sudden have a greater urgency because there's billions of tons of this stuff, and it doesn't hurt the soil in the same way that potassium chloride does. It's actually the microorganisms in the soil that liberate this super green sand and make the potassium available for crop uptake. So this is an example where this horrible coronavirus crisis is actually going to light a fire under this junior in a year that's critical. And if the government leans on the permitting bodies to get this going, and they fill this order book and say, we're ready to sell more, this stock will come to life in a very big way. It's not an exploration discovery type thing. It's more a discovery in the sense of demonstrating that this abundant super green sand material is actually the salvation for Brazil's import dependency on conventional potash.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been talking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at howstreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.